Hi, guys. Happy Monday. I hope you had a very nice weekend. So, taking a look at today's responsibilities, you need to get your workbook because you're going to use your workbook to answer questions along with this slideshow. Then, you're going to complete a Google form. And last, you have your iReady path, 15 minutes each day for a total of 1 hour this week. I do have a lot of students who still need to submit their flip grid from Friday. So if you have not done that yet, please do so. You should have received emails as well as your parents should have received emails reminding you of any missed work you had from last week. So please go ahead and go back to any assignments from last week and take care of that. So I hope you guys participated in our Spirit Day on Friday. So I just want to remind you that each Friday we're going to be holding a school-wide Spirit Day. I look forward to seeing the pictures that you submitted of yourselves in your Ritter Ram gear. This Friday, though, we are going to be wearing red for our character trait of pride. And we are looking for students to maybe add some Phillies flair to their red. So, again, on Friday, be ready to dress in red or Phillies gear, and then you will be provided with the link to upload your picture. It was really great seeing those of you who attended our Google Meets last week. Hopefully, more of you will start participating this week. I did see who you wanted to be paired up with, those of you who responded to the Google form, and I really tried my best to group you together. I do want you to notice there are some time changes and day changes. So, Tuesday, this group will go at 1 o'clock, followed by, from my green class, this group at 1:30. Wednesday, this group here has to go at 8:30 because I have to stick with the school schedule on Wednesdays. This group here, Wednesday at 1:30. And then you'll see that I have Thursday blocked off because I have to go into school on Thursday. So if you are emailing me during the day, I might not be able to respond to you as quickly as I usually do because I will be in school Thursday morning starting to pack up the classroom. So you might see your other teachers who you normally meet with Google Meets maybe telling you the same thing. So we each have a special schedule to go into school next week. So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds if you're looking to get in touch with your teachers. And then finally on Friday, you can see the last two groups, 1 o'clock and 1:30. All right. So we are going to continue with reviewing our geometry. I've noticed that there are some misunderstandings that we will be reviewing in our Google Meets this week, but we're also going to move on to our next topic. So, we are starting a new standard where we're going to be working with some algebra concepts. And you can see it says use parentheses, brackets, or braces in numerical expressions and evaluate expressions with these symbols. And the second bullet point says write simple expressions that record calculations with numbers and interpret numerical expressions without evaluating them. So today we're starting lesson 30, an explore lesson. So please remember, explore lessons are the first day that you are being introduced to a topic. It is meant to be a little confusing. You might have, some questions after the first day, but be kind to yourself and remember that every day you'll get a little bit better the more you learn. So the topic is evaluating, writing, and interpreting expressions. All right, if you have not gotten your workbook, please go grab it now. If you need to get a notebook to follow along, please do that too. And then turn to page 625. All right, so here is our introductory problem. So I'm going to go through, read the problem, and I want you to go through that process of thinking who and what the problem is about, what's happening in the problem, what are you being asked to do in the problem. So it says, Maria and her friend go to a movie. At the snack stand, they each get a drink that costs $5 and a popcorn that costs $8. Maria pays for her friend. How much does Maria pay altogether? So who and what this problem is about. We have Maria and a friend. They're going to the movies. They're going to buy a drink and a snack before the movie starts. And Maria is going to pay for her and her friend. So what are you being asked to figure out? Well, if you look at the question mark, that usually tells you the sentence that is going to tell you what you have to do. So how much does Maria pay altogether? So your job in this problem is to figure out how much Maria is going to spend on the snacks and the drinks. And then going back, taking a look, well, remember, they each are going to get a drink for $5, and they each are going to get a popcorn for $8. So I want you to go ahead, push pause on the video, and in your workbooks on page 625 or in your notebooks, go ahead and solve this problem. All right, so let's take a look at how we can approach this problem. There are a couple different ways that you can group your numbers together to solve. So here are just two ways. So the first thing that you can do is you can figure out, well, Maria spent $5 on herself for a drink, $8 on popcorn for herself. So she spent a total of $13. And you can see down here, we doubled the 13 because this is Maria's cost and this is Maria's friend's cost. So altogether, Maria paid $26. If you take a look at the second example, you can see that first, these are called grouping symbols or parentheses. So the first thing Maria did is she grouped the drinks together. So because she bought 2 drinks, she did 2 times 5. She doubled the $5 and got $10 for the drinks. And then over here, you can see that these grouping symbols or parentheses represents the 2 orders of popcorn for $8 each. So you can see that she did 2 times 5 and got $10 for drinks, 2 times 8 and got $16 for the popcorn, and altogether it was $26. So again, that you can see that the answer for both of these evaluated expressions, evaluate is just another word for solve, is $26. So did you do it more like sample A? Did you do it more like sample B? Or maybe you figured it out a different way? All right, so let's take a look at number 2 in your workbook. So this long paragraph says, the problem on the previous page is a multi-step problem. Multi-step means multiple steps, guys. And you can see here that you had to do something first and then something else. Something first and then something else. It wasn't just one step to get the problem. So it can be represented by an expression that contains grouping symbols. So grouping symbols are braces. They look like those fancy little symbols there. Brackets and parentheses. Parentheses are the ones that you guys are going to probably see the most. So when you evaluate an expression, you find the value of the expression. Again, evaluate means to solve. If an expression contains grouping symbols, you do the operation inside the grouping symbols first. The most commonly used grouping symbols are parentheses. To evaluate an expression, use the following rules, which are called order of operations. So some of you might be familiar with this term, order of operations. Some of you, this might be new to. So you have to remember that order of operations is a set of rules that everybody needs to follow. So that way, we get the exact same answer every single time. So taking a look at these steps, the first thing you have to do is whatever is inside the grouping symbols. So if your problem or expression has parentheses, you do whatever inside there first. The next step is you need to solve any parts that show multiplying or dividing, and you do them from left to right in the problem. Last, you add and subtract. Just like multiplying and dividing, you do that from left to right in the problem. So I just want to take a look at this one here, letter A. You can see that I have multiplying and addition in this problem. If I were to solve this by multiplying first, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 8, I get 18. But if I didn't follow order of operations and I started with addition first, 8 plus 5 is 13, then times 2, do I get an answer of 18 again? I don't. So that's why it's really important that everybody follows these 3 rules. So we're going to take a look at A and B and how to solve them. All right. So again, here are your 3 rules. First, grouping symbols. Next, multiply and divide from left to right. Last, add and subtract left to right. So I notice that I have multiplying and adding. So when I look at this step, there's no grouping symbols. There is multiplying, so I have to do that step first. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, and you can see that I highlighted it there, 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So you can see how that carried down to the next line right here. So I replace the 2 times 5 with its value of 10, and then I do 10 plus 8, which is 18. On this side here, I do have grouping symbols. You can see my parentheses right here. So that means I have to solve this part first. So you can see that the first thing I have to do is solve my grouping symbol. So I'm going to do 5 plus 8, which is 13. So I'm going to replace 5 plus 8 with its value of 13. And now, since I solved for my grouping symbols, I go to my next step. I solve for multiplying. And you can see, again, my answer is 26. So depending on what you solve first, you could get a different answer. So again, that's why we all have to follow order of operations. All right, so today's main goal is I want you to try and figure out what to solve first. So before we even look at actually finding the value of our expressions and solving them, we have to really practice what are we going to solve first. So let's take a look. Remember, here are your steps. First, grouping symbols. Next, multiply and divide from left to right. And last, add and subtract. So I can see, I have grouping symbols in this, and I have multiplying. So what am I going to do first? Am I going to multiply 7 times 3, or am I going to add 3 plus 4 inside the grouping symbols? You should have agreed with the second place where I put this, around the parentheses. Yes, we need to solve this part first. 3 plus 4 is 7, and if I did want to continue, my next line would be 7 times 7, and my answer would be 49. All right, taking a look at number 2, I notice that I have subtracting and adding. Now, if the parentheses were not here, and it just said 15 minus 2 plus 7, I would solve my adding and subtracting from left to right, which means I would actually do 15 minus 2 first, then plus 7. But because I have these grouping symbols, and that's my very first step I have to follow, the first thing I have to do is 2 plus 7. All right, so I would like for you to push pause on the video for these 4 problems, and I want you to decide what is the first thing you need to do in these problems. All you have to do is write down the symbol or the word, and then when you're ready, come back and push play and we'll go over it. All right, so taking a look at this first one here, I notice that I don't have any grouping symbols. So now I'm going to go to my next step. And it tells me that I have to multiply and divide before I add and subtract. So I notice that there's adding and subtracting, but because there's multiplying and dividing, I have to do that first. All right, so now let's take a look at number 4. There aren't any grouping symbols. There isn't multiplying or dividing. I see subtraction and adding. Now I notice here it says add and subtract, and I do it from left to right. So that tells me that I have to subtract first because that comes first in the problem. So again, first grouping symbols you solve for, then multiplying and dividing. But since there was none of these, I go right to my last step. And because adding and subtracting are in the same problem, I do them from left to right. All right, so let's take a look at number 5 here. There aren't any grouping symbols. I notice that there's dividing and multiplying, and I see that dividing and multiplying are the same step, and I do them from left to right. So for this one here, guys, you should have said you're going to divide first. So number 6 looks a little bit different because of the fact that we actually have 1, 2, 3 operations. Compared to all the other ones, we only had 2 steps in our problems. Well, the first step is do any operation inside the grouping symbol. So the first thing I have to do here is 2 plus 1 because it's inside the grouping symbols. All right, guys, so this is our Explore lesson for today. When you are done my video, you're going to click on the next slide and watch another order of operations video. It's under 3 minutes, just to kind of review some things. Then you are going to complete the Google form that is attached to this slideshow presentation. Please don't forget to complete your missing work from last week. Again, a lot of you owe your Flipgrid assignment. Also, please don't forget to look over the Google Meet schedule so that way you are prepared for when it's time to attend our virtual meeting. All right, guys, have a great Monday.